Yo. Alright, what's up, fellas? I got a thing here that I did a review on a long time ago, a year ago. Like the first video, one of the first videos I ever did. And at that point, I only had, I don't know, probably less than 1,000 rounds through this scope, but I was psyched on it, and I was really happy that I bought it, and didn't see a whole lot of publicity for it, kind of an underrated unit. So I put that out. And some people watched it. A lot of people are psyched on this thing, but it's still an underrated scope, and you just don't see a whole lot about it. I did see that Mr. Guns and Gear put out a video on it where he really highly praised it, and he said it was one of his, I guess, top 5 pieces of gear for 2017 or 18 or something like that. And this thing deserves more credit than it gets and more publicity. It's just super good, like really good for $500. You know, this is, my opinion, the very best low power variable you can get for $500, or you know, around that $500 range where you're not into that upper level yet. You're still, you know, hovering around the more budget priced optics. And this thing is not a budget optic, like, whatsoever. The very first time you look through it, especially if you can look through it comparatively side by side with another one, you know, Primary Arms or Vortex Strike Eagle, or even the Viper, stuff like that, the glass quality on this thing is it's up there. It's super good. And my favorite thing about it is, one, the glass quality, and two, the reticle itself. It's a crosshair with a projected dot. The dot is like 1 MOA, maybe even smaller than 1 MOA. The dot, very fine, but if you turn it up, it's very bright. So when you crank this thing up, it's very fast, very fast. So in shooting drills and stuff at close distances, it's very fast, just as fast now. I cannot beat myself in drills with my red dot setup, so that tells me, you know, a pretty good story of how this thing works. And I hear a lot of guys wanting 1 to 6 and 1 to 8. Me personally, 4 power is a really sweet spot. It really is. I have a 1 to 8 Primary Arms, and I got nothing bad to say about them. But this 1 to 4 with insanely clear glass versus that 1 to 8, it's, you know what I'm saying? And you would look through the Primary Arms offerings and say, well, this glass is good. You know, this is pretty good stuff. And it is. But then when you look through something like this side by side with it, you really get, you know, the picture paints itself, because you'll see all that gathering of light. You'll see just how clear this glass is, whereas the cheaper stuff has just a yellowish tint to it. And then when it starts getting dark around dusk, and you take something out and look out in the woods, you can see what you're looking at. And then especially what's awesome about these is in low light practice or night shooting with weapon lights, these gather a lot of light and they tell you a lot. So to the eye, you can't, you know, your weapon light is shining out, let's say in the woods, and when you're looking through a red dot gun or whatever, you don't get quite all the benefits of the light. But with this, you know, you can just move it over to, let's say, 2 power, and then look out in the woods with that weapon light, and you're like, well, I can actually see out there, plus the great glass and the great light gathering characteristics. That's one thing that the LVPOs have that a lot of people don't really talk about. It does work really well, especially hunting at night, coyotes or hogs or anything. Like, there's definitely some good reasons for it. And the weight on this thing, 17 ounces, it's right there around that pound mark, so that's all good. The throw lever model, like, this thing's taken some decent hits, no problems whatsoever. The battery life is awesome. The reticle is, you know, it's just a crosshair with a dot and a couple subtension lines, so you can get your dope and figure it out. And you kind of got to figure that out for your own. And that's with all scopes. You gotta figure it out. Chances are, what they set up the BDC for is not your exact setup, and you're not your exact bullet. So you got to kind of do all that for your own setup anyway. Super bright. Just all around, nothing to complain about. The mount that it's in is a Midwest Industries high mount, the 1.93. I have to admit that I kind of thought that was a gimmick, and I'm like, well, I don't have a laser and stuff, because they originally built these mounts to look over D-balls and stuff on the front of your gun. And then people started using them, and I see a couple guys using them in 3-gun matches, and I was like, you know, it's kind of gimmicky, you know, just wanting to do something different. But then I shot one, and I was like, well, there's something to that. So when you're just running the gun and you throw it up, that high mount, it's awesome. And even in some weird positions and weird places, it's a little nicer, because you don't have to kind of get down behind it if you're in a weird position, or you're sitting the gun out in a, yeah, it works. So one other thing that's awesome about these in the reticle is that with the projected dot, I can be looking from like clear back here, and the dot it'll even show up through the shadow. So let's just look at it here. Let me turn the dot up. So see how there's the shadow, and you can still see the dot. So that actually works. You can still do that. You know, you can use the scope that way. And if you're behind a vehicle and you're doing something weird, or you know, whatever the case might be, and you can't get up on and get your entire scope view, you can still use the dot. So it's, you know, one more point for that. Honestly, it's the best $500 scope on the market. I've gotten, now teaching, I'm getting more and more exposure to different optics, different guns, different choices, all these things, and it's given me a little bit more knowledge of what's out there. And I still haven't found anything that I like more that isn't a Vortex razor. So pretty much for me, it goes this straight to Vortex razor. Like, there's no in between. The Vortex Viper PST 1-4, 1-6, they don't have anything that this doesn't, and they're more expensive. So just an awesome setup. The AccuPowers I don't like as much. They got cluttered reticles. The glass is probably as good as this, but the AccuPoints I really like, but again, it's more expensive. It just, I can't find anything out there that's better than this for cheaper than this. So there you have it. They're worth looking into. The Midwest mounts are awesome. We know that. This gun is set up really well. It's come a long way, and it's just a good solid setup. Naked, nice and light, and just a sweet little SBR. Geisley trigger, Geisley rail, ballistic advantage barrel, Streamlight light, fail zero bolts, which I like. That's all I have is those in my rifles, and I've been nothing but good results with them. Spikes buffer, BCM grip. Yeah, pretty sick. Pretty sweet little package. Take her easy. Go get you one of these Steiners.